Okay, good morning, and welcome to the second of two videos on blood in humans. Ordinarily, if we were in class, I would ask you how many of you have donated blood. Uh, Siena generally holds one or two blood drives every year, usually once a semester or so. And I know that many of the students do donate on a fairly regular basis. If you've not donated blood, you should probably consider it, at least if you meet the qualifications, because donating blood is a, um, a nearly riskless activity, and it can do a great deal of good for your friends and neighbors and families. I donate every 2 months or so because my kids, when they were born, each one of them weighed about a little less than 2.5 pounds, and each one of the three of them needed a transfusion before they came home from the hospital. And so, without blood donors having given that blood, they wouldn't have received that blood. And, that would have been, well, it could have been a big problem. Anyway, what do you need to know about donating your blood? Donating blood is obviously a safe and sterile procedure. Um, you're going to donate, if you do donate, you donate about a pint of blood, and you've got over 10 pints of, well, most of you have over 10 pints of blood in your body, so giving up one is not a big deal. You're going to replace the plasma in just a few hours because the fluids will be removed from your cells and that sort of thing, and drinking a lot of water and or other fluids will replace that plasma very, very quickly. And the blood cells will be back to normal in a couple of weeks. All right, you'll build up the number of red blood cells and white blood cells and platelets and so on. You may feel a little dizzy when you're done because removing all of that blood will decrease your blood pressure a little bit, and so you may feel a little bit dizzy. Your blood will be tested for a number of diseases, including HIV, syphilis, hepatitis, and a few others. And if any of them come back positive, you will be notified, although don't use this as a doctor's appointment. If you think you've got a disease, go see your doctor. You should give blood because it can help to save many lives. However, you shouldn't give it if you've ever had a number of different diseases like hepatitis, malaria, HIV, and so on. Now, in terms of understanding your blood type, all right, I'll ask, generally speaking, does anybody know what their blood type actually is? All right, well, I personally am O positive, and it's right on my little blood donor card. But you should know what your blood type is. Now, your blood type is based on what kind of protein is found on the surface of your red blood cells. All right, and these proteins are called antigens. All right, these are substances, usually polysaccharides or proteins, mostly proteins, that can stimulate an immune response, not in you, of course, but in somebody who received your blood. Antibodies are proteins that are made in response to an antigen. They're produced by your white blood cells in order to fight off things that don't belong in your body. The word antigen refers to it is an antibody generating protein. Now, what determines your blood type? The presence and or absence of two blood antigens, which are called A and B. All right, scientists are very unoriginal when it comes to naming things. So whether you've got A or B or both or neither determines what your blood type actually is. And your blood type will also determine what kind of antibodies are present in your blood. You are born with antibodies that are present for the antigens that you do not have. All right. Let me say that again. You are born with the antibodies to the antigens that you don't have on your cells. All right, because these proteins recognize and then bind to the proteins that they're named after. So let me give you an example, what this all actually means. All right, the blood types are named after the protein antigens that are found on the surface of their cell, except for type O, which lacks the A and B proteins. And if you look at the picture on the right-hand side, this little blue fungus-looking thing represents a type A antigen. The little cone represents a type B antigen. And notice that somebody with type A blood has anti-B antibodies. Whoops. Notice the triangular shape which fits the cones on the B. Okay, but and the type B person has anti-A antibodies. Notice the semicircular shape which would grab these spheres. Type AB folks have both type A and type B antigens on their blood cells and no antibodies against blood typing. And type O folks have no antigens on their blood cell surface, but they have both kinds of antibodies. All right. So in this case, who can donate to whom? Well, first of all, let's talk about what happens if you're not compatible for a blood transfusion. All right, the first thing that you have to see is if you are a type A person and you receive type A blood, like in the top example here. Well, a person with type A blood has anti-B antibodies, but if you add type A blood to them, nothing happens. No binding, no sticking together. Okay. On the other hand, if you give type A blood to a person who is type B, the person who is type B will have anti-A antibodies. And what that means is that the antibodies will literally bind to the A antigens on the surface of these donated red blood cells, and they will cause what's called agglutination, which is a clumping of those cells. And this can be very, very dangerous for the person who receives that blood. It can cause clots and other major issues. So how do we figure out what to do in this case? All right. Well, let's start out by talking about type A blood. All right. What kind of antigens do folks with type A blood have? They have A antigens on the surface of their red blood cells, and therefore they have anti-B antibodies. So, type B folks have obviously B antigens, and they have anti-A antibodies in their systems. A person with type AB blood will have both A and B antigens on the surface of their red blood cells, but they will have no antibodies. And a person with type O blood will have no antigens on the surface of their red blood cells, but they will have both anti-A and anti-B antibodies. So, what does this mean in terms of blood donation? Well, if you are a type A person, you have type A antigens on your system or on your blood cells. Can you donate to a type A person? Well, of course, you can always donate to somebody who's just like you. All right. Can you donate to a type B person? Well, a type B person has anti-A antibodies on their system, and therefore they can't receive type A blood. Can you donate to a type AB person? All right. The answer is absolutely. Because type AB folks don't have any antibodies in their bodies, in their blood, and so therefore they can take type A blood. And if you're type O, uh, can you take blood from type A? The answer is no. All right, because type O folks have anti-A antibodies in their bloodstream. All right, so if you're type A, you can give your blood to a person with type A or a person with type AB blood. Now, if you're a type B person, okay, you've got type B blood, can you give your blood to somebody with anti-B antibodies? I'm sorry, to type A, and the answer is no, because they have type anti-B antibodies. Can you give it to a person with type B blood? Sure, you can always donate to somebody just like you. Can you give your blood to somebody with type AB? Well, they have no antibodies, and so yes, you can donate your type B blood to a person who is type AB. Can you donate to a person with O? Well, the answer here is no, because type O folks have anti-B antibodies in their blood. Now, if you are type AB, can you donate to type A? Survey says no, all right, because they have anti-B antibodies in their bloodstream. Can you donate to type B? The answer is no, because they have type anti-A antibodies in their bloodstream. Can you donate to type AB? You bet your sweet bippy you can, all right, because you can always donate to yourself. And if you're type AB, can you donate to type O? No, all right, because they have both anti-A and anti-B antibodies, and that would lead to agglutination. Finally, if you're type O, okay, and you have no antigens, can you donate to type A? Yes, all right, because you can donate to type A because there's no antigens that the anti-B antibodies could fight off. Can you donate to type B? You bet, because again, there's no antigens for the anti-A antibodies to fight off. Can you donate to AB? Again, yes, because there's no antigens or antibodies there. And finally, can you donate to type O? Of course, because you are always able to donate to yourself. Now, if you are a type A person and you are in need of blood, can you receive blood from a type A person? Yes, you can always receive from yourself. Can you receive from a type B person? Well, you've got anti-B antibodies in your blood, so you can't take type B blood. Can you take from AB? Again, you've got anti-B antibodies, so no. But can you take from type O? And the answer there is yes. All right, so you can receive from type O folks. Now, if you're type B blood, can you take from A? And the answer is no, because you've got anti-A antibodies in your bloodstream. Can you take from or receive from type B? Sure. Because you can always take blood from somebody just like you. Can you accept blood from a type AB person? And the answer is no, because you've got anti-A antibodies. Can you take from type O? And the answer there is yes. Okay. If you are type AB, and you have no antibodies in your blood, can you accept from type A? Sure. No antibodies to fight off type A. Can you take from type B? Sure. No antibodies to fight off type B. Can you take from AB? Of course, because that's your blood type. And can you take from O? Well, yes, indeed. Okay. And if you are finally, if you're type O, can you take from type A? No, because you've got anti-A antibodies. Can you take from type B? No, because you've got anti-B antibodies. Can you take from type AB? No, because you've got anti-A and anti-B antibodies. But you can accept blood from type O folks. So what that does is it makes type AB the universal recipient So if you're type AB, you're lucky because you can accept blood from pretty much anybody. But type O folks are the universal donors. That's awfully sloppy, but I'm trying to write with a mouse. So the universal donor, all right, type O blood is the universal donor. Okay. Now, this is a Mr. Anderson video on blood types, Bozeman science. You can't watch it through the video again, but I have uploaded the PowerPoint to Canvas. And so open up that PowerPoint or just copy this URL into your browser and have a look, all right? Essentially, he covers what we just covered and a few other things as well. Okay. Now, what about the other aspect of blood typing? All right, you always hear O positive, O negative, AB positive, and so on. What is that positive and negative deal? Well, that's referred to as your RH type, okay? And the RH factor is often included when you express a blood type, just by calling it either positive or negative. People with the RH factor, which again is just a protein on the surface of their red blood cells, are positive, and those who do not have that factor are negative. Now, unlike the ABO blood groups, you only develop antibodies against RH if you're exposed to somebody who is Rh positive, okay? And so somebody else's blood. And in most often, this occurs during pregnancy, all right? And this is when Rh becomes very important. Under the following conditions, this becomes a real issue. If mom is Rh negative, and so she's got no Rh antibodies in her blood, and dad is Rh positive, and they make a baby that is Rh positive as well, okay? Then, during childbirth, blood from the baby can enter the mother's bloodstream. Not during pregnancy, mind you. There's no exchange of blood between a baby and mom during pregnancy, all right? At least under healthy, normal conditions, all right? But during childbirth, when the placenta tears away from the uterine wall, there's an exchange of blood there. And in that case, some of the baby's blood can get into the mother's bloodstream. If this happens, then mom sees the baby's blood as a foreign antigen. It's an invader, and she will develop antibodies against that Rh positive blood. Now, not a problem for the first baby, not at all. That baby's out, safe, sound, delivered, whatever. But if mom then gets pregnant with a second Rh positive baby, now she's got antibodies floating around in her bloodstream against Rh positive blood. And although the blood cells can't move through the placenta, the Rh antibodies can. And so what happens is that these Rh antibodies will make their way from the mother's bloodstream into the developing baby's bloodstream. And that can lead to what we call hemolytic disease of the newborn. All right, this can lead to all sorts of medical problems, nervous system development issues leading to learning disabilities and whatnot, and it can even lead to the death of the baby. Now, this is just an image of how that might actually occur. All right, the Rh antibodies during childbirth. I'm sorry. Whoopsie daisy. Sorry. Here represents an Rh positive baby, and here are the blood cells of the Rh negative mom. Well, if the Rh positive cells of the baby get into the mother's bloodstream, then she begins to produce antibodies. Now, there's no exchange of blood through the placenta, but for a second baby, these new antibodies that mom is carrying, all right, can now make their way across the placenta wall and start causing agglutination inside the developing baby. And that obviously can lead to some serious issues. So what do we do about this? Well, as you know, 50 years ago, they used to require people who were going to get married to go to town hall or their doctors or whatever and get themselves a blood test. And if dad was Rh, if the husband was Rh positive and the wife was Rh negative, they would recommend that either they not get married or that they not have children. Okay. But luckily today we can take care of this. If an Rh negative female gives birth to an Rh positive baby, she is then given an injection of synthetic Rh antibodies, usually right at birth, right, just as the baby is being born, but no later than 72 hours later. And so what happens is that these antibodies get into her bloodstream and they attack any of the baby's blood cells that are in there before her immune system can realize that they're there. All right. This is a common method of vaccination, by the way. But so if the baby's blood is destroyed before her immune system realizes that it's there, then she won't produce her own antibodies. Now, the trouble with this is that it doesn't last forever, because once the antibodies have done their job, they degenerate and break down. But if she does have another Rh positive baby, this process has to be repeated every time she gives birth to an Rh positive baby. All right. My next door neighbors are in this scenario, and 2 of their 4 sons were Rh positive. And so she got this shot literally twice, once after each of the 2 Rh positive sons were born. Okay. So at the end of each discussion of each system, I'm going to put up a slide that looks something like this, which talks about homeostasis and how that system works to maintain homeostasis. Now, I'm not going to read through this entire slide, but all systems of the body work together with the cardiovascular system to maintain homeostasis. The cardiovascular system, the heart pumps the blood vessels transport oxygen and nutrients to the cells of all of the organs, and they transport wastes away from them. The blood clots to prevent blood loss. The cardiovascular system also specifically helps the other systems as mentioned below. And you can certainly read through these. This picture is found at the end of chapter 6 in your textbook. Okay, so that concludes the second video on blood, and this is the second and last video for this chapter. All right. So I hope you learned something.